Hannah and Cailin back again with Double Talk. I'm Hannah. And I'm Cailin.
In April 2009, after a small-town pilot mysteriously died during a flight from Florida to Louisiana, passenger Doug White had to take control, landing the plane to safety and saving his entire family on board. Now, 14 years later, the harrowing story is coming to Amazon Prime with the April 7 release of On a Wing and a Prayer, a film starring Dennis Quaid as White and Selena Anduze as the air traffic controller who heroically talked him through every step of the way. Listen in as we chat with Selena about the film's incredible story, her character's real-life counterpart, and how she uses her PhD in her life as an actor.
I was watching the trailer and we saw just a little bit of your character, but I was getting like Halle Berry and The Call vibes as far as like the life or death situation, and you were handling with such grace. It's based on a true story. How do you get in the mindset of an air traffic control officer?
I listened to obscene amounts of actual air traffic control calls that were live, as well as ones that had been recorded, and it's so random that this stuff is just out there. You can just Google it, or you can just look for it on YouTube. And I actually got my hands on the actual call for the woman whose life I was portraying, who walked Dennis Quaid's character all the way through with his family. And then another character, once he crossed out of her airspace, they were all working, together to make sure that they landed safely. And it was just such a high stress situation, but you have to remain calm when, they're already stressed, and you don't want to further that stress. That will cloud their judgment. So it is a life and death situation, and as humans, we absolutely should do everything that we can, especially when you're in that kind of job. That's all part of the gig. So as an actor, we take that on, and we make sure that we do the best story that we can to give a voice and to give an honor, really, to those who risked their lives and were in those stressful situations.
Your character, who, like you mentioned, was a real life woman who actually had this experience. I mean, she's a hero. What did you learn about her story, that actual real life woman, especially listening to the actual tapes? Yeah, who had to do this, who had to live this?
I learned that she was actually a pilot as well, and she understood planes ever since she was young, and that she was just really such a calm and loving energy, and absolutely was meant to be an air traffic controller. She was also the only one in that office, or in that control room, who was able to talk him through that specific aircraft, because it was an old model and nobody else had any experience with it, but she had experience with a similar plane. So just getting her story and listening to her call with him and chatting with the wonderful director and the producers on this project, I felt like I was able to do some justice to her role or to her in real life, and try and really give that, okay, everyone's panicking, but I'm calm. We're going to make it like it's riding a bicycle kind of thing.
It's just amazing that, I mean, you think about, this story, and then also like the Sully Sullenberger story. Like, it's just insane to think about. These people are trained so well, but like nobody expects the day that something like this happens. They woke up that day and like they were going to have to use everything they've ever learned to save people's lives. So it's just,
and you can't be trained too for the intricacies of every scenario that could happen.
Which is why these stories that are so miraculous to hear about. But as an actor, I would always think that the most interesting thing would be you're not just doing the same thing every day like you would if you were, say, an air traffic control officer in real life. You live all these different lives, and you have, in a way, all these different careers. Tell us a little bit about that, about how you're almost living these experiences that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten to live by playing these characters.
It's so much fun. When we're little kids, we have this beautiful imagination, and then we go to school, and it's kind of like, okay, now you have to fit in this box, in this structure, and imagination starts to just like blow away from us. And as an actor, we get to invite our imagination to come back. We get to not only do that, but we get to use our own, creativity and our own skills and our own method of storytelling in order to affect the hearts and minds of everybody who watches. So to me, it's such an honor to be an actor. And I really value that I can do different types of characters, because someone out there is going to be like, oh my gosh, I totally get it. And it's going to speak to them. So being a master storyteller, it's such an honor, jumping and getting to play in all these different lives. Honestly, I'm still shocked I get paid for it.
Doug White, who Dennis Quaid plays, the real life Doug White, he actually had experience piloting planes. He had about, I think, 150 hours of experience, but it wasn't the same type of plane that he had to land that day. I'm just wondering, based off of what you learned from doing your research on this, and just in general, you of all people got to put yourself in that position, you know? Do you think that just anybody could land a plane in that situation, or did you really need that piloting experience?
I believe that under any extraordinary circumstance, we are so much more capable than that we believe. I think that Doug having 150 hours was so magnificent, because he was able to also calm his family down, give them, having his wife and his daughters on the plane as well. Even though it was a sticky situation and it was a life and death, he had at least some knowledge of, oh, this is what I do. This is what I listen for. I need to hear specifically these coordinates. I need to know how to go up in altitude, how to go down in altitude. And I think it also made it a little bit easier possibly for the air traffic controller to really understand that, hey, he at least has this knowledge, so I don't have to also micromanage that. I'm gonna walk him through only these other things because it's a difficult plane. So given the situation, air traffic controller would absolutely be able to talk somebody through whether they're a pilot or not, but him having those extra hours and having experience in a plane, having been behind the wheel, as you say, I think it was all just the right combination.
Yeah, you say combination. It's such a combination of instinct, the ability to stay calm, and then the training.
I think the ability to stay calm
is probably number one,
yeah.
Which is why it's so cool that you got to portray that moment and the ability to stay calm. You know, we mentioned before the Miracle on the Hudson event too that happened. Do you think, because I consider people like your character, your real life character, and Sully Sullenberger to be heroes, do you think that people do you think it takes a special type of person to have this kind of outcome in this situation? Or do you think, as you sort of touched on, do you think it's more of a rise to the occasion event?
For some people, they thrive in chaos. They get really calm and they can handle anything. And then I think other people, maybe they freeze in a fight or flight, and their brain kind of just thinks through, okay, what do I do next? I don't think one is worse than the other, but that's what's so amazing about the neurodiversity of our species. You know, we can all help each other. So if someone was in fight or flight, there's going to be the counter opposite, someone who's ready to handle chaos. If you're lucky, this is why we need community and why we all need to be around each other. If he were up there all by himself, I don't know what would have happened. Yeah. But thankfully he wasn't alone. And maybe when we have the people that we care about, we do rise to that occasion. And no matter what, especially when we think, oh my gosh, I wasn't capable of it, but some other power took over me, and it was like having an out-of-body experience.
It's like when you hear about mothers, that's like they develop superhuman strength. Yeah. If they need to. Yeah, talk about rising to the occasion. But exactly. When there's a story like this one, where it's kind of like a duality of the tragedy and then the miracle of being able to save these other lives on the flight, how, you talked about honor earlier, which stood out to me. You mentioned the word honor. How can you honor the life that was lost, and then also celebrate the miracle of what came at the same time throughout, let's say, through a movie?
I feel like by documenting it and sharing it, that's how we can honor both. By telling their story, by recognizing that, it's not always a happy ending. I think that we get to honor it. We get to educate everybody. We get to share in our triumphs as well as our grief. And we get to just tell the human experience, especially when it's under these kinds of circumstances. So sharing the story, and that's what I'm definitely in it for as an actor, is sharing these stories on the big screen, on the small screen, whatever you have, wherever, it doesn't matter, as long as the story's told.
Yeah, that's sometimes the best and most impactful thing you can do.
But there's so many beautiful stories that are true that don't even get made into movies, that are so poignant and so strong for us to learn from.
Now, one of the really cool things that I learned about you is that you actually have a PhD in health sciences, right?
Yes, I'm a total nerd.
That is so cool. Are you able to use that degree at all, or what you learned from that in your acting career?
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like everything in life, everything in our life experience, be it education, be it playing an instrument, even if you're not doing those specific things on screen, it gave you an experience that enriched your life, that helps you tell a story from a place that is more real. Versus if you're always stuck in your house, you never have life happen to you, right? So I certainly am so grateful that I had the education and I had, that I am a science nerd and I get to go and pretend to be a doctor one day or go and, pretend I'm going to do this very, very difficult operation on a doll for my child. Okay, sure. Because to me, that's implementing everything that I already did know and everything I did learn, even if it's not going to be in health science or any kind of naturopathic medicine. That's totally fine by me. It's all enriching.